Today I want to talk to you about a word that we don't hear often in most churches. In fact, I personally don't recall ever hearing about this important word. It's called consecration. Leviticus 20 verse 7 states, "You shall consecrate yourselves therefore and be holy, for I am the Lord your God." A technical definition of consecration means that you're to set yourself apart from evil, turn to the Lord, and be prepared to be used by God. You see, consecration plays an important role in your growth toward God. But consecration has two parts, our part and God's. Our part is the practical side of separating ourselves from sinful living. God's part of our being consecrated is to prepare us for His use by actually making us holy. Take note here that in being prepared for holy use, God has to also prepare our body for being used in ministry. Both our part and God's part in consecration work together. So you must be wondering, how does consecration begin? Well, we start this process by separating ourselves from evil by the means of continually working within our heart to draw away from earthly resources. In the void of these earthly ways, we need to draw closer to God. This is practical in the transformation toward a holy life. And by drawing closer to God, purity works its way into our experience because enjoying God's presence becomes our preferred way of quenching our thirst, not sin or unwanted behaviors. This results in the earthly ways of the unrighteous living because less and less attractive to us. By our turning to God, He is able to do His part in consecrating us. So my question for you today is this: do you want to be prepared for God's purposes? If your answer is yes, then you have to draw near to God and let Him draw near to you. You can count on God to do His part. We just have to do ours. Here's an important note. Practical holiness and the cleansing of God for holy use cannot be separated. One without the other is not possible. The Bible says, in fact, now that you have consecrated yourself to the Lord, come near. You can find that in 2 Chronicles. Did you know that the cross of Christ is the doorway to experiencing the presence of God? That's right. We have to consecrate ourselves before we can enter the throne room to draw near to the Lord. Please note that consecration is not something that you can do then think you are done with it. In fact, the Bible says that whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. We find this in Luke 14:27. But carrying our cross is something that we will always have to do. You see, none of us will ever grow enough to put our cross down. Since we won't ever grow out of it, consecration has to become a way of life. Don't wait for the day when you look at your practical righteousness and say, now I think I'm going to do good enough to draw near. If you do that, you'll only be depending on the righteousness you think you have achieved and not the righteousness provided from God. Here's some practical advice. Be in consecration for several days or just a few weeks and then take steps to draw near to God. If consecrating yourself doesn't also turn you to God, you will find yourself just as bad off as when you started. May your blessings abound.